first game of the NFL 2022 season is in the books. It's been launched, and one fan base is very, very, very happy. And 31 other fan bases are now obviously very concerned. Bills, how can you really add too many superlatives to what they did? It was domination of the Super Bowl champions. This is very scary news. Bills fans should be extraordinarily happy. Me, I'm a Dolphins fan, not so happy. But as a football guy, I really enjoyed what I saw in the sense that I got to see some real talent, a really good team. Now, the game itself wasn't what I expected. I mean, I kind of expected it to go this way, but not to the degrees. I mean, it was, I had said in my podcast to lead up to this game, 7 to 10 point win. I expected the Bills' defensive line to dominate the front of the Rams and them not to be able to run. And this was going to put problems on Stafford, who was going to throw picks. And Allen, he was going to get some pressure, but because of his movement skills, he was going to really put the hurting on the Rams. But this was far more vast than I expected. The first half was fun as a football fan. It was a little wild, a little crazy, 10-10, you go into the half. But I didn't really feel good about the second half as far as being a football guy and wanting a good game. Second half was kind of really a downer because it was just domination, essentially, from the Bills on the Rams. Again, Bills fans should be very, very happy. But I here at this show that I do, I try not to be a fan of anybody, even my own teams, the Dolphins, in the sense that I'm just going to say, you guys are awesome. Everything is awesome. I had a very, very serious concern by the end of the game. And I put video together for it. I'm going to use a bunch of video in this game. And I do this because I really care about the fan base that I am bringing to. And my Dolphins fans can tell you I'm a Debbie Downer sometimes. But I believe there's always something to work on. There's always something to be concerned with. That there's never a free ride in the NFL. Now, for the most part, you should be ecstatic. Von alters this defense on such a different level. It is tremendous. I'll get into all the defense. I'll get into all the offense. And I'm going to have chapters for you guys because I want to do a little thing here before I get into it because I got a comment from somebody on my last Bills video and I want to address it. Some of you probably heard it already, so you might want to skip over, or maybe you just don't want to hear that part. But I'm going to have chapters, and it's going to be defense, offense, Allen, and then the but. Okay? And I really am not just saying something. I really focused on this but with a lot of video. And, but, you know, most of it, 90% of it, 95% of it is like, woo, boy, you guys got one hell of a team. Anyway, so get to that if you want to get to, or you can sit here and listen to my little 2-cent quick thing over here. Somebody in the last podcast said, you know, your love for the Bills is a little too much. It's uncomfortable. And I get that as a fan. I know most of the people who do these things on YouTube, they're all about, I was going to get my little thing here, messed that up, about being a fan and just trying to get as many clicks for the most part by saying something that will activate the fan base to rally around that channel and that video. I'm not saying everybody does that, but that's usually the way. You get to pick one team and then you just fan out and try to get as many clicks as you want. I'm trying to do something different here. And not even just trying. The sign behind me, Ace per head, they paid for me to do this. They said to me, hey, man, I like what you did. I was doing this little channel thing on the side, and they're like, you know, we think you got talent. We'd like to bring you in and to do this thing. I was like, nah. My wife said, no, you're going to do this. I was like, all right, I guess I got to do it. They said, the only stipulation we have, you're in full control, just want you to not just do the Dolphins. We want you to cover multiple sports. I whittle them down to just football because that's really what I know besides fighting. And they said we want you to cover many teams. And that was, when you go back to the beginning of this channel, I was covering lots of teams, but then I got very unhealthy, and I wasn't really able to study the way I like. I got OCD. I got some issues. I don't like to do anything unless I know about that team. I don't like to just talk. So I really like to study something before I speak about it. And when I'm being sick the last 6-7 months, probably even longer, the Dolphins, I know them. 43 years of paying attention to them, studied them all the time. And then the Bills, for a year and a half, I've studied them. And so I felt comfortable to talk about them more than I do other teams because I just didn't have the wherewithal within myself to really study other teams. There's a guy, Coach Tim. He's a Titans fan. And I promised him last year I'm going to cover the Titans because I'm really excited about them. And he asked me, well, can you get the Titans in the mix? And I really have done a little bit for them. I've done a little bit for the Colts. I do Patriots. But it takes a lot to really invest into a team to have good information. And so the Bills are somebody that I have really invested in a year and a half. And so you'll see lots of Dolphin stuff and you see lots of Bills stuff. And part of that is my respect for the fans who've supported me and become friends of me, and because I actually know something about that team. Now I'm going to expand that base, and you're going to see me cover more teams now that I'm healthy. And so if you watch this channel, I am a Dolphins fan, but I'm always going to evaluate fairly. Whatever team. I might be right, I might be wrong, but I'm going to tell you what I see, the good and the bad. So I just want to say this so you can understand what I'm doing here, because there's a lot of new subscribers. So I just really want to come across because I respect you. If that's not what you want, if you want a guy to say your team's the greatest all the time, I might not fit your need. Anyway, now before I get into the main thing, I want to do what I always do, say thank you for everybody stopping by. I appreciate everything that you guys do here, all the likes, the subscribes, the views, especially the comments. And I also want to say thank you to my sponsor, Ace Per Head, because without them, they got me into this thing. They believed in me, and they're paying me to do this. So without them, this show ain't happening, just like without you awesome viewers. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. One last note, I had a big intro there. I'm going to put a little chat to this so you could, get through that thing too. I'm doing my first live thing with Tommy from Mafia Sports Report. We're doing a thing called NFL Overtime. We cover many teams. I go to his channel one week and come to my channel one week. So this Friday at 9:30, I'm going to do my live thing. Tommy's great. Bills fans, you'll love him. I love him as a person, and I love working with him. He's been helping me out. So tonight at 9:30, we're going to do the live thing. All right, so let me get into the Bills stuff because that's what you guys are here for. Defense was so much better than I expected. I knew it was going to be good. But when you got Dane Jackson in the 7th round and Benford picked in the 6th round, really occupying most of your snaps in the secondary, with Trey White not in there, you're figuring the Rams are going to be able to take advantage of that secondary. They didn't. Not necessarily because Jackson and Benford were super, super, super awesome. It was because this defensive line victimized the Rams' offensive line that's been in flux and is not the same offensive line that brought them to the Super Bowl last year. And this is what I had really expected. Shelton, the right guard, is a lightweight. I expected him to get taken advantage of. In my podcast, I didn't mention Phillips and I didn't mention Tim Settle. Somebody in the comments said, well, what about Phillips and Settle? I said, you know what? I should have mentioned them. They, along with Daquan Jones, along with Oliver, and with Vaughn, just really created such an unpleasant environment for Stafford, who had a terrible game. But to be honest, he didn't look himself either. This team looked out of sorts, some because they've lost talent, some because I think Stafford is still coming back from major rehab and fixing baseball-style rehab on that elbow. But really, it's about this front that is super talented and super deep, and they should strike terror terror into the hearts of offenses around the league that have very thin or wholly offensive lines, which is a lot of teams. A lot of teams. And I know we all want to believe it's the quarterback and it's the receivers. And no, it's offensive line versus defensive line, both sides. And that sets the foundation. And the foundation set, you got Oliver with 2 pressures. Now, he got injured. It's a little curious to see how that plays out. But this line is just sprained ankle, so it's not the end of the world. Unless it's a high ankle sprain, and that could be a longer-term thing. But and then Daquan had 2 pressures with a 15% win rate on 46 snaps. His size just really dominated Shelton. It was ugly. Phillips, he had 6 pressures, 18% win rate on 35 snaps with 1.5 sacks. He's a Dolphin. I remember this guy. The whole deal with him is he's super talented. You just got to constrict the amount of snaps he has so he could play at this unbelievably high level, but don't let him play, 40 and 50 snaps. And the situation he is in right now with the Bills is not good for the offensive fronts that are going to meet this Bills team. This guy is super talented, and when you constrict his snaps and say, we want you to play hard for this 30, 35, snaps or whatever, and spread them out over a game, very, very terrifying. Now, Shaq Lawson, who's a talented player, he's got some holes in his game. He didn't even play. This is another piece that can get brought into the puzzle to help out if somebody's injured or to come in. This is such a deep unit. Now, Vaughn, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Not only is he an unbelievable pass rusher, as you can see here, look at this. He does the outside move and then congratulating Noteboom on running him wide, and then he comes back with the power and knocks the socks off this guy, drops his drawers, and drives him into the quarterback. Vaughn is the whole package. He can stop the run, he can bring power, and he can bring speed, and he frees everybody up. And Mikey over Mafia Sports Report, great guy, smart guy, called us and said, the pairing of all these offensive linemen versus defensive linemen is going to put Vaughn on Noteboom, and it's not going to be pretty. And he called it 100%. Mikey, you nailed it. This is not good news for anybody. The domination, this is going to be a continuing theme. Now, offense. The O-line, Bates was beaten by Donald. You can see here, he was victimized. But you can't really kill him for that because Donald was taking Saffold and driving him back as well. One-on-one, this guy's an animal. Bates had some struggles. I still feel like he can be a weak point throughout the season. But overall, this offensive line was pretty good, and it's going to get better as it develops chemistry. And to me, as this offense grows. Spencer Brown, I thought he was going to be a role, like a backup player to Quisenberry, but he came in, and man, this guy's got a chin like you wouldn't believe. I saw a picture of him. I never really noticed it before. This guy's got a chin like granite, and he played unbelievable. For a 3rd-round pick, this guy is really stepping up. So this offensive line, to pair with this defensive line, has both high talent and depth. And the offensive line, to me, has not reached its pinnacle of execution yet. Now, Knox, who got this giant contract, did a little podcast on that. That's where I got a little bit of the griping from some Fin fans, which is understandable. He didn't really play much in the pass game. He blocked all day. And this shows why they signed him. He did a pretty good job. He's the kind of guy who's going to come in to help you win, whether it's catching the ball or blocking, and he's capable on both ends. That was really good to see. Cook, he's kind of like what I believe. He's a guy who needs development. He fumbled the football. I don't really see him maybe later in the season getting some understanding of what it's like to play in the pro game. He had the one fumble. Gillum, the fullback, got injured. It's a little bit concerning. I don't know what the problem was, but he came back, I believe. He's going to play a big part in this offense. if it continues in the direction I'm hoping it goes, or even if it continues in the direction that it's currently going. Now, Moss, I liked him a lot. Pumped him up in the offseason. He had the fumble, but he also had 6 catches for 21 yards and 6 hard runs for 15 yards. But I don't really like a lot of the plays he got. He's a between the tackles runner, and I thought he had a little bit too much outside. I'm going to get into that where Dorsey, I liked. He got some praise from the commenters on the game, but I still have a little concerns there. I saw a lot of good stuff I like, which I'll get into. But Moss had that fumble, but still, he was a good piece along with Singletary, who had 8 rushes for 48 yards, 6 per carry. Together, they had 14 carries to Allen's 10. I still like to see less from Allen, but it was good to see the backs carrying a lot of this rush load. Now, Diggs, Ramsey's does not seem the guy. Something seems, since that Super Bowl game where he got beat by Chase, he was off. Diggs beat him for 8 catches, 122 yards, and a touchdown. Ramsey's had a very tough game. Davis, you see here, this play action pass is what this really brings a lot of terror to me for this offense. And you can see here these linebackers were really biting on this play action. And it leaves Allen on his own with one guy in front of him and then another guy blocking another guy in front of him. So Allen can either run or pass, and this puts defenses in terror zone. But the Rams kind of weren't biting as much as the game went on. And I think they're going to have to really get focused on this run game to get this play action going, because it's not going to be as easy. The Rams have holes that were able to be victimized. I think in tighter games with better teams, more complete teams, you're going to have a more serious inside run to get this play action, because Allen then is going to be he's already unbelievable, but just imagine with a real run game with teams biting like you just saw, this kind of play action. Davis, 88 yards and a touchdown, and he was just secondary sauce. This guy's got a big season coming ahead of him. Crowder stepped up with 3 catches for 28 yards. McKenzie, 2 catches for 19 yards and a touchdown. Deep and talented receiving core, and I keep saying this, deep and talented almost everywhere I go on this team. Now, Allen, what more can you say? I mean, I really did a study on him. And, after the 2020 season, where people were saying, it's just a fluke or whatever, and I was like, no way, man. I looked at this guy's stats. I started watching him, really, and I was like, man, this guy's super talented. He's going to the next level. And then last year, people said, it was a step back. There was actually an article I didn't even bother covering and said that he's going to take a step back. Last year was a great season for him when you actually look at it in context. And this guy is going to take another step forward. I mean, he had 10 runs for 56 yards, which I'm going to dig into in a minute, for 1 touchdown. Look at this run. He switches the ball in his hand like a good running back and stiff arms the snot out of that defender. Then he had 26 for 31, just about 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. 1 pick wasn't his fault. 1 was. So really, when you see it, he had 4 touchdowns and 1 pick, along with 350 yards on combined. That's mind-blowing to just get started opening week. Now, what I really liked was his chemistry with Diggs. You could see on this play right here, if Diggs isn't in sync with Allen, Allen doesn't put this ball here, it's a problem. Both these guys, along with the rest of the receivers, have great chemistry with Allen. And that takes Allen communicating with them understanding him, and both putting it together on the field. This guy is going to have a phenomenal season. Now, he had poise. He was orchestrating this offense. He was tough. We know the whole deal. But, here's my but. Look at the abuse that Allen took. And to me, I think it's almost unconscionable. This guy's got $1 million body. He's a Greek Adonis. He's a giant of a man. But your brain doesn't factor that in. Concussions happen when that brain sloshes around in the juices in your skull and slams against the skull and causes damage to your brain. And your brain don't care how big you are. Look at this hit after hit after hit on his head. You cannot have an elite, rarest of rare players, quarterback, the fuel of your team, taking this abuse in a blowout, defeating a lesser team. And this is my concern. There was also a couple plays where his shoulder got slammed into the ground. Joints, your brain, all it takes is a hit that this guy could have a long-term layoff. And I understand you don't want to take away from this guy's ability. You want to use this ability when it's needed. But I feel like, Dorsey, his calls in the first half, a lot of people raved about it. I wasn't crazy. I thought it was a little too passer happy. I really liked his adjustments to the second half because Dable couldn't adjust. And he made some nice adjustments, changed the look, brought a more physical look at the running backs. But then he kind of went like Dable to the Allen well too much. Even when it was 31-10, he's doing a play action rollout and running the ball. And he didn't take a big hit, but you never know. You don't want to stack up hits like this because this guy could be one of the greatest quarterbacks, players of all time. And your body only has so many hits. And your brain, he's a quarterback. He's got to process. He's got to think. He does not want that shot where his neck jerks back. The touchdown where he got, it was great and all, but his head slammed. How many times does his head slam against the turf? How many times do players take his head and slam it in the turf? He even got helmet-to-helmet contact in the air. And players are going to be doing this on purpose. How much can this guy take? They've got to limit this. This could tear this beautiful machine that's been built to the ground. They've got to take care, be more respectful of this guy's health. Now, I'm not saying not let him run, but you got to let these running backs take that abuse. It's not nice to say, but that's their job. I'm hoping Dorsey doesn't have to keep going to the Allen well as much as he did because this was very scary for me. As a fan of a player, as a fan of the game. I mean, a Dolphin fan, I don't want to play against Allen. I want my team to win, but I love this kid. And I hate to see what was done to him last year and this year. And it really needs to change. Now, Dorsey, I liked, but didn't like some parts of his first half. I loved the way he made adjustments. From what people are saying and what I saw, it's this power spread look. But because you got Saffold inside, I don't understand why there's not more interior runs, at least to draw the defenses in. And more patience. I felt like last year, the offense just wasn't patient enough. It was a tight game. Dable got nervous, and he's Allen, just to get the score. With this defense, with this talent, patience is the key. Patience to utilize Allen. I mean, he's going to run. He's going to do his thing. But constrict that by calling plays away from him to give him that opportunity to abuse his body. Everything else is unbelievable. You haven't even added Trey White in. But Allen, that brain of his is taking, and his body's taking lots of hits. This is week 1. 17 more, plus, 4 more games, including the Super Bowl if you get there. Just got to stay out of that evil lottery as much as you can. Anyway, Bills, unbelievable first game. You guys have a team of teams. Maybe a team of the ages. We'll see. I'm appreciative of your ability. I am horrified at what I've seen. I hope my Dolphins shock you. But you guys must be very proud of yourselves and very excited, and you should be. Anyway, this is Curtis saying thanks for staying to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Comments mean the most. Interacting with fans, it's a people thing. Football is a people thing, and we're all people. So thank you for stopping by. Catch you next time. Be well. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.